We are ready.
All right.
So we will go ahead and call this work session to order. February 1st, our topic is discuss disposition of the Fort Raymond property and offer to purchase a portion of the property by Chugachmute. And we'll get the Zoom started and see who's on. Sorry.
Good. It looks like Cheryl Cease is on.
Okay, Cheryl. So I'll just verbally say in the room, not that we're calling roll, but just to say that we do have a quorum. We have Councilmember DeMoss, Councilmember Osenga, Councilmember McClure, myself, Christy Terry. We have Cheryl Cease on the Zoom, and we've already called the meeting to order, so I'll turn it over to administration.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so we brought this before you at the last meeting in discussion forum, and you wanted some more information on the land. And Jackie and Doug have been working on it and on different breakdowns of the land that could be either sold or leased. And I'll let Jackie take over.
So in the packet and behind you, council, are 3 different maps. I left one totally blank, so you guys, if you want to break some different things up, we can do that. One of the overlying reasons that we're here is because we did have an offer for 3.31 acres. As you can see on the maps, this is a different setup than what was offered or what was requested by the developer. We, at the last council meeting, it was discussed that at some point the Public Works office was supposed to be relocated, and working with Doug, we've come up with just about 3 acres that would be off of Aspen. So on the maps, like you see, the blue areas are areas that could be proposed to be used for possible city land. After I made these maps, it was brought to my attention that the fire department and public safety building that they've been looking at would require close to 3 acres also. And they do not really care for the 2.12 acres that have been zoned institutional that's right off of the highway there. So one of the options, like I said, that's not included in this map is that 2.53 acres to be also an area that would be for the public safety building if the city deemed that fit. I did break down, so the area, all except for the reserve fire department, 2.12 acres, is zoned auto commercial. So the minimum size is 9,000 square feet. So I broke it down so you could see how many 9,000 square foot lots could be proposed in these yellow areas. You know, this setup is just an idea and a concept that, you know, we want to make sure that you understand. The red areas are roads. They do take up a portion of the land, of course, but the frontage road and that goes along highway, the Seward Highway, Doug and I've worked with, there's a main water and sewer line there, so there needs to be a road. We can't build on top of it. The area that runs from south to north between the 2 properties, that's a 30-foot easement, which would be like an alleyway, and then the one that runs east to west is 60. So the frontage road, the east to west, those are both 60-foot right-of-ways, and then the alleyway would be 30. We have in the past been offered a sort of a land swap with the gentleman that owns the property, the little triangle piece. He's given us some different, over the years, some different input that he would like to possibly extend his triangle a little bit further back and give us the lower part, which would give us another access from the highway. So that's something also that the city can look at. The surrounding area, of course, we have the utility warehouse, which is right there, that backs up to what could possibly be city land. In working with Public Works and the fire department, there's an option that you could just make that whole back half be public or be city property, and then whatever the council decides on whether or not you want to lease and or sell or do a combination of both. The city will have to survey, of course, and have the land assessed, but it's an open 11.4 acres.
So, I have a question just off the bat. So the 3.31 configuration, has Chugach seen that? Do they have designs? Would they be willing, can they tailor what they're doing now, or do they already have designs?
They don't have designs. When they originally came to the city, we gave them 6 different areas. We broke it up in different ways. The final that they came back with, that was the first time we had seen it,
Okay.
what portion they had chose. We have given them this packet, and I don't know if they are online tonight. They were going to call in. So if you had any questions for them, they could answer those. I spoke to both Jan and Kelly extensively, went through this whole process. We've tried, we tried different configurations just to get them the 3 acres at least. And then, like I said, the last council meeting, when we were asked about providing portion for the city, that's when I broke it down into this type of configuration. It still gives them their frontage. It still gives them the access that they're wanting from the highway, but they have not said anything about how they've designed the building. I think their next step was that, to get a confirmation from the city that they can move forward with this extensive land study. And that is a drawn-out process with the engineers.
Are there any other questions on the dais before we go to the phones for council and see if there's public on there? Or
I just had a quick one. They indicated a really short timeline in the original proposal. How far out can this extend, do you think, before they go somewhere else?
To be honest, I think that, they were waiting for the 28th. They had given us a timeline of the 28th. I would say that we probably have maybe a week to 2 weeks before they decide to. Just because that federal funds, everybody knows the timeline that you have to deal with that, and they're right on that cusp, from my understanding.
Did either one of you have any comments? We can come back. I'll just check in with you first.
Not yet.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you, do you want to check in with Councilmember Cease and see if she has any questions, then we'll see what public's on the phone?
We have Baclan and Casagrande have joined as well.
Okay. Let's start with, Councilmember Cease was on the line first. Let's ask her if she has any. Councilmember Cease, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Can you hear me now?
Yes?
Okay. No, I don't. Now that they've figured out something for our city property that we need also, I guess I don't have any comments on it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Casagrande, did you have any questions or comments at this time?
I actually just figured out how to even get on, so I've only been on for about 5 seconds, so I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay, we'll check back in with you or speak up. Thank you. Vice Mayor Baclan, did you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, knowing now what, if it's a couple weeks that we're looking at, they might move on, where does that leave us in process with code and timeline for following code within that timeline? Or are we looking to, you know, are we trying to fast track this, or what? I'm trying to guess what the goal is here.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't think that we're trying to fast track it by all means. I mean, this has been something that's been through the administrative portion for over a year. But by code, you know, the council as a whole needs to either decide to go into negotiations to sell a portion of the property off, and if that happens, then we would, of course, have a public hearing at that time. Or you know, and that's just to enter into the negotiation part. But the council needs to decide, do they want to sell? Do you want to lease? Do you want to do a mix? And how do you want to see this in the future? I think as far as Chagachmute is concerned, they just need to be able to go to that next step. And that next step is knowing that the city is in agreement to sell a portion of land to them.
Is there a
Thank you,
follow-up?
Jackie.
Okay. Is there anyone, let's check and see, is there public on that would like to make comment?
There is no hands are raised.
Okay,
There
let's,
we go.
Yep, we
Let's-
have Carol Griswold.
okay. Go ahead, Carol.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. This is the first time I've participated like this. It's very interesting. So here's some comments based on the packet and what I've just heard the first 10 minutes. The graphics on pages 3 and 4 seem to arbitrarily divide the Fort Raymond property into random-sized parcels, noting a number of 9,000 square foot lots. I would rather know how much land each city needs requires, such as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. The Chagachmute letter stated that the federal partner required a firm commitment no later than January 28, 2021. A week to 2 weeks is much too short a time frame for this important decision. And that's what Jackie just said, a week to 2 weeks longer. This is a fast track for the public. We just found out about it at the last council meeting. The letter in the packet did not elaborate on why Chagachmute was interested in 4 city sites or why they ultimately selected the Fort Raymond property. Katuchek's letter really noted the easy access. Note that they are interested in 3.31 acres and possibly more, depending on the sales price. For comparison, the site north of the hospital that the Seward Community Healthcare Center purchased is 0.96 acres and may prove too small for its needs. If Chagachmute is still interested, the question on page 22 of the packet should be answered. Do we have sufficient land to accommodate future public facilities and transportation? The new city shop, satellite fire station, new Parks and Rec maintenance facility, public safety building, expansion of the electric warehouse, relocation of the animal shelter from the inadequate site on Sea Lion, and other possible needs. I do not believe the city should be selling or leasing any land at Fort Raymond until our city's needs have been observed. The municipal land use plan recommends that the city retain ownership and review development possibilities for the Fort Raymond parcel. According to the plan, long-term leases provide long-term financial gains over selling. All the economic gains and enhanced health and well-being presented to the city can be realized by building their 15,000 square foot hub clinic in Seward on private property. Public lands are a finite community asset held in trust. We should not be rushed into this decision. That's all for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am going to try to swing back through everyone, so I'll give you another bite at the apple. Thanks, Carol. Madam Clerk, can you call in?
We have also on the line, but no hands raised, is Angela, Jan Vanderpool, Eric Fredine, and Kelly Baker, but their hands are not up.
Okay, is there anyone else? If you would like to speak, use the raise hand function, or if you're not sure how to do that, you can, just say something out loud, and then we'll know that you're waiting. well, let's keep the discussion going here. So, I went ahead and I had this pulled up before, but I pulled up that resolution 94-101. And, you know, back then, they said, the city has no written policy regarding the identification and nomination of public lands for disposal. And then they said, the following procedures have been adopted to allow the public to nominate city-owned lands not otherwise designated as available for lease development, which is what this is. Well, actually, this was previously leased to the Air
Yes.
Force, but at, you know, $1 a year for 99 years or whatever.
Right.
But, so we have a written nomination. You know, I would like to see this go through P&Z. And I don't know if that's gonna put a kibosh on everything, but, you know, my problem is, or my druthers is we have a commission that deals with land use, that deals with regulations, you know, would have a chance for Doug and some of the city folks to make sure their needs are met. And, you know, I'm willing to say we're interested in selling. We would, you know, want to pursue that moving forward, but I'm not committed until it goes through kind of more of a vetting process. I don't know how folks feel about that.
I would,
Go ahead.
I agree with that. That was what I was going to suggest when I asked what the timeline was. You know, 1 to 2 weeks probably doesn't allow for P&Z to weigh in but I was wondering why they had not been involved in this prior to it coming to us. So that I'd like to see this be an option. So I would go along with that suggestion to have P&Z look at it.
So I can answer that, just so you know, a previous administration had stated that, you know, at the time that Chugachimute contacted, it was through administration. Never did they, you know, they tell us that we needed to go through planning and zoning, even though it's something that, you know, I've brought up multiple times, but at the beginning of this process, it was, you know, we want to look at this property, we want to be able to negotiate and not, you know, have to deal with a lot of people at the point of the beginning of their, you know, their
That
funding and
explains a lot.
everything. But I, for one, agree that it should go through planning and zoning. And then we have, you know, we have a meeting tomorrow. But in that meeting, we're also discussing the idea of when we can start the review of this land use, this plan. You know, the 2014 plan needs to be updated. And so that gives us the ability to do those things. You know, I think right now, you know, just my feeling in general of working with Chugachimute, you know, this has been a long process. They have done a lot of back and forth with us, just, you know, to see the lay of the town, to have, I mean, we've had talks with their engineer because they wanted to come in and just do some simple land tests. We allowed all that through administration. You know, at no point did we ever say absolutely, but we said here is city-owned land. And, you know, like I said at the last council meeting, we did give them private offer, you know, private land that we knew was available at the size that they were wanting. I know that a couple of the areas that everybody keeps going to, you know, it's not just the location, which is great, it's how you get the utilities there. And, you know, we deal with this quite often, right? That there's a lot of areas in our town that are great prime locations, but we may not have the ability to do the utilities and to spend that much money to get them there and or put in a lift station versus having it right where you are is a big difference when it comes down to spending those federal dollars.
Councilmember DeMoss, would you have any?
do you know if they have any interest in, because it seems like they have to make a decision quickly, do you know if they would have any interest in doing like a lease with an option to purchase?
Their
To give the city
federal,
time.
their federal law grant does not allow them to lease the property.
Okay.
We went.
It is a strictly sale.
And so, and I guess my only other question was why this property specifically, but I guess with the utilities, with, right?
Yeah, you know, when you, let's look at just the subdivision that we just did, right? You know, that's prime real estate, it's a great location, but we didn't have utilities to it. And when you're talking the utilities for this big of a complex, I mean, yes, they're available there, but if you go into other areas that are publicly or privately owned, the privately owned, you're looking at $200 a foot per water, per sewer, and then the electric also. So it adds up, and I think that they're just trying to conserve how they spend those dollars to be able to put into a building.
Sure. Is there a borough assessment on the piece of land? I'm sure there is in here, but I haven't.
No,
didn't see
we
it.
don't
Oh.
have one on it,
Okay.
because it was a dollar lease.
Oh, right, okay.
So like if we were leasing it at fair market value, we'd have appraisals every
Right.
5 years. But since
Okay.
we weren't even leasing it at a fair market value, we,
Yeah, we didn't even include it
But
in
there's-
that batch of appraisals
for
because.
first swing, mixed
Yep.
swing.
Yeah,
Okay. There's not a Kenai Peninsula Borough appraisal on it?
There's no tax.
Okay,
no, there's no taxes.
right, okay. Okay, thanks.
So that's in this, it says, so what the planning and zoning will look at is titles, covenants, deeds, zoning, land use planning, other land restrictions, and any planned public uses associated with the land. Is there someone raising their hand?
Casa Grande.
Okay. Councilmember Casagrande?
Has there been any dollar amounts discussed with the nonprofit that's interested in buying, and do they understand that the appraised value will reflect the value of having the utilities accessible versus the properties that don't have the properties accessible, that those properties that are listed without utilities accessible likely could be used as a comp to place a value on the land that they're looking at?
So to answer the first part, no cost or dollar amount has been given or even discussed. And I would assume that as the appraisal is done, you know, we enter those things in. I mean, of course, it changes the land value of the land if you have the accessibility to public utilities. So I do see that it would be a different price than privately owned that didn't have the utilities.
Did you have a follow-up?
I do. Is the grant money that they are wanting to spend to buy the property, is this COVID grant money?
No, they've been this was started way before COVID even hit. This is a federal grant that they applied for, and I think out of the whole country, only 5. I think it was only 5 were awarded this type of grant.
Do you have a further follow-up at this time?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you know, from the public talking to me, they definitely want something done with that property. I mean, I've been hearing that for years, that property is sitting there underutilized. You know, we haven't made any planning attempts with that area. So I think, you know, I think there's desire to move forward, whether it's this project. I mean, they're the ones that came to us with a proposal, whether it's the city making plans and doing a timeline with this, you know, a project list that we've talked about also. You know, we want to utilize that property because it's a great piece of property. But again, you know, I would like planning and zoning to look at it as our advisory committee.
And Madam Mayor, when we look at it, do you want us to look at both options, the lease option as well as the sell option? Because, you know, that's, I think, where, in my mind, community development is sort of stuck. You know, we've been told constantly, we need to do something with Fort Raymond, but we're like, well, you have to sort of give us a little direction of what you want done, because, I mean, that's a different the stall in general, right? Like how we wanna break it up or how you know, see it.
You know, I think I'd like pros and cons of both.
Okay.
Because I don't think anyone on this council will say we will never sell a piece of city property. I mean, we've already updated, we've already taken back some property, you know, if we're keeping it static, but we're not gonna sell just to sell. I mean, it has to be in the public's best interest.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then Councilman, is there, well, let me check, Councilmember Osenga's been quiet, just checking in. Okay. Is there someone online?
Bakwan had his hand up.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Bakwan. You're on.
I've been kind of wrestling with this for the last week because I'm trying to understand the best way forward. And I'm thinking that even if there was a possible, even if we got to sale or lease or whatever, it just seems like there's somebody that wants to do something with the land rather than, you know, if somebody purchased or leased the land and didn't do anything with it, and chose to do something down the road. I just feel like that's a positive thing of this whole situation, is that there's actually a plan for it, something to be done. So I really appreciate the fact and that coming through. So I do agree with the mayor. I do think this should go to planning and zoning. Our commission to deal with land usage. I hope that we can send that to them with the right tools, because I feel like they're going to end up back into this beginning discussion where we were. So I'm wondering if we can do anything proactive, if Jackie has any suggestions. Like, I'm just thinking, but I'm not sure if there could be appraisals done that could be sent to them, or I don't know, just more information so that they're a little more equipped to handle the discussion when they receive it, to possibly get it moving quicker for them.
You know, and that's all doable. Like, we could get an appraisal, but in the long run, we have to know what we're appraising. Are we just appraising the 11.4 acres, and that's, you know, or are we appraising it in a lease option, or are we appraising it in a sell option? Are we appraising just the 3.31 acres? Like, there's a big layout there that, you know, there's massive possibility in that area. I mean, like I said, you look at the map, we broke down 9,000 square feet, you know, there's 16 on the 3.31 acres, there's 10 on the 2.2, and there's 12 on the 2.47. So if you had somebody come in, give us an appraisal on 12 9,000 square foot lots in an auto commercial district, it's going to be a lot different than 11 acres and portion of it being city, you know. So there are some avenues that we can take, but it's, you know, I would say at that point we would need to go out to RFP to have somebody do those type of appraisals. I mean, we have a company that does them for us, but for this big a chunk of land, I would hate for somebody to come back and be like, well, you didn't even give us a chance to give you the type of appraisals. And then on top of it,
For those type of services, we don't have to go out to RFP. We can sole source
we could,
professional appraisals, especially since we have someone that just got a new contract.
and then you also need to add on top of that the cost of surveying.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's expensive. I mean.
So one thing that the vice mayor did touch on is the good thing about leases is then we protect the city from speculators. Like, so people can't come in, buy a piece of property and sit on it and like make their own money. Like, we definitely want to have a project, which we do have something that seems like it could be beneficial. But I don't know that the public's had enough time to weigh in on it. Even though I think that this, you know, I love what they're proposing. I think everyone is supportive of that type of, you know, them having the ability to do that. They have a great track record of running a phenomenal clinic, great management. I mean, it's just a stellar organization, and that's why we're even having this conversation. But I would like to see, I mean, so it's February, you know, how soon I know planning and zoning has a meeting tomorrow. I don't know if they have a work session topic, or they could have a special meeting with a work
We
session.
can do a special meeting.
Yeah.
Just like right now, I'm thinking as
And-
long as I got 72 hours, we
Well,
can do a
and,
meeting.
and you're right, as, you know, a member of the public mentioned, you know, it would almost be planning and zoning that talked about what the configuration would look like with input from Public Works. I will say that I know the school is not gonna be happy with heavy equipment coming out on Sea Lion, and we already have a public having children, there's
Yep.
a problem at Sea Lion and the highway.
Yep.
So I mean, we don't wanna impact this Sea Lion Avenue with more equipment, cause I remember when the electric department went in there. So definitely making sure that there's other access avenues.
Yep.
And planning and zoning could look at that. And then I interrupted Councilmember Demas.
I was just gonna say, the borough has it assessed at 11.57 acres at 1.596 million.
For the whole.
Zero
piece.
tax payable.
Yeah.
So just, to give an idea.
Yes,
Casa Grande.
okay. Thank you. Councilmember Casagrande?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if what I think we're looking for is input, I would like to see it go to planning and zoning, and I would like planning and zoning to decide how they want it parceled. In my opinion, it seems to me that it should be parceled off in 4,500 square foot lots, because that is the size of lots for that end of town, the average size of a lot. Maybe 60,000 square foot lots, but somewhere in there, and have it parceled off and decide which parts want to be leased, which parts want to be sold, and have a plan that is open and transparent to all of the public and go forward, because I feel like, as much as I do echo everything that the mayor said, that this is a stellar nonprofit and they have great operations, I just don't feel that it is in the public's best interest to parcel off a chunk of a whole 11 point some odd acres and sell it to somebody, because what we could be doing is devaluing the rest of the land and not even be aware of it. So I really feel that if I was to put my input in, that we need to start as if we don't have an offer before us and decide what we should have done 4 years ago, what we want to do with this land.
Councilmember Osinga?
I guess I'm kind of confused. I'm trying to figure out we're divvying these up into little lots for. I mean, I know one of the concerns about having a dog pound near there was the noise of the generators, and it seems to me like that noise of the generator is going to be a concern if someone's looking at a 9,000 square foot lot. So I guess, to me, in my mind, it seems like this something industrial would be better suited there. And you start parceling it off into smaller lots, then you're looking at, I don't know what you're looking at, I guess, is what would be there.
Well, and to answer Ms. Casagrande first, I just want to give a little input. So the 4,500 square foot lots are for everything on this end of town in an auto commercial district. So it's 6,000 to 9,000 square feet for auto commercial, and on that side of basically that side of the lagoon, you're at 9,000 square foot lots. So I just want to make sure that, the 4,500 does not fit in this area. To answer Ms. DeMoss's question about what the borough has as the assessed value, that assessed value is with all the structures that used to be on it. It is not current as of today, just so you know, because,
It says on the unimproved land,
yeah,
because it usually separates it out.
right.
It says 0 on improvements.
Yeah, so I just want you to know that that was what it was years, and like you look at it,
In 2020, that's what they gave you.
yeah, they didn't come over, they just did it off of previous. So I just want to bring that up. And then as far as breaking it down, Mr. Osenga is correct. Even the placement of where Public Works is going. We discussed where how the generators run, or where the Public Works could be going. But the layout in general, you know, even of how he thinks of his buildings, would be more of a sound breaker for his equipment as well as the generators. So at one point, you know, we talked about just that whole back portion being city property. You know, you see on the one that has the 2.47 acres, I've left that tree barrier that gives more of a sound break for the generators in general. We have had, I haven't had many people come to me asking about 9,000 square foot lots. I've had a lot of people coming to me asking me about acreage. And it is for things like movie theaters, strip mall. Those are the type of things that have been brought forward to me for this area. And in my mind, when you look at it, you do see, you know, you don't want a lot of people coming off of onto Sea Lion. You want them to come sort of off of the Diamond and be able to access this piece of property. You know, I, again, willing to do whatever council requests and work with planning and zoning. Break it into as many lots as you guys, you know, you give all those options. Those are definitely things that we can do.
So since we have the Public Works Director, I know there's a member of the public, but let's let Doug have a bite at the apple. I don't know what plans you have or how this reflects what you might need for the Public Works shop to be relocated at this location, or do you want to share some of that?
Sure. The Public Works area that you see there in the blue coming off, coming up Aspen around that is just really, like you had talked about, the school bus traffic. Trying to mix us in with that is just no way. So that's where the first plan that had popped up had completely cut off this end. For us to be able to utilize that, if we were on Aspen, we do have that second little entrance that is already current off the highway where the red cul-de-sac is. Go up.
Oh, this.
Yeah, so
Where
that,
it's
and,
blocked
right.
off now?
It's just, yeah, but it's there, it's all gravel and everything.
Yeah.
And that would give a nice turn-in, put a frontage road right across, which would give great frontage for that whole piece of property across there. My concern is also the generators back there. And what I was looking at to alleviate that was our buildings kind of going down along the red line there, a couple of them. But as the further down there you get, probably sand shed, or further north that you get would be sand shed, but also storage. I mean, even Public Works can't put I can't have my office beside them either. I mean, right beside them you couldn't, it doesn't go off that often. But, you know, I could have the storage down there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I'm looking at.
And
We
then
have,
move your offices down this side.
right, and so the other thing I'm looking at is the possibility, and I did talk to Rob about it, just threw it out there. We have, right behind the electric, they're looking to do some fence line work to maybe expand, do some things. If we were able to let them expand into their own zone right there, maybe, and I don't know if would or not, but we've got the yard that's got the electric down by Spurnard as you go out. The city electric has a lay-down yard with all their, maybe that could be moved and be all in one yard right across that back.
And divest ourselves of that.
Right, then we could have that available for something else. And it's something that Rob was interested for sure in kicking around and to see where that would go, but at least it would ideally utilize that area kind of as a buffer and as a storage area. What we have to have anyway, we do have to have storage areas for the goods and the things. I mean, all the big super sacks of salt that I've got in the yard back here, salt, calcium chloride, they could all be moved out of sight, put over there. We're gonna have to store them somewhere, and same with equipment. And so the idea that I'd be looking would be to try to buffer not only the sound, but also the sight coming from the highway. To be able to have, they'd look at the buildings and they'd be more likely a nicer metal building type of thing that would go across on a couple of them, and that way it just wouldn't look unsightly from the road either. And that's where we kind of pushed into how to do that, because I don't think the clinic or even, of course, the animal shelter, they don't want it right up in that, where it says .62 there. Yeah, that top one, that's just a tough spot which could easily be really utilized well, and maybe, like I said, divest on the other one if that's a possibility with electric.
So the one good thing is this request has really got us thinking and planning.
Mhm.
So thankful for that.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, it's not drawn in, and Jackie had gone through and shown where there's 9,000 acre, or 9,000 square foot lots up there. It does make a difference sometimes to picture it, and maybe that'd be something that planning and zoning could look, once you draw those in, and you have how they're drawn, and then come across the bottom 3.31, that could be 3 or 4 different lots in the 3.1 acres, and they could, you know, offer to purchase all, or not, maybe not the last top one, you know, at that top red or pink line there, that road going up to the warehouse. That may be a strip that they may or may not need. But I think they do want a full 3 acres, so I think that gives them that frontage. They can come in, they have a back alleyway access also. It just gives a much better access to get in and out. And it keeps a lot more traffic off of Sea Line.
And when Doug and I worked out this layout, we, you know, down at the corner, down there by the cul-de-sac, you'll see that that doesn't have anything colored. We are talking even about snow removal, like, you know, where are locations that you could, you know, they could plow and just put it there, won't have to worry about it. You know, Doug and I worked on that. We've also talked about, you know, between the cemetery and the chamber, you know, having that be accessed, but also maybe having an alleyway that would lead just to the city lots on that side that they'd be able to pull in and out of. You know, you're looking at, that would be a private entry and exit for them, but it would connect to the top red line that's going west to east to west. You know, we talked about the electric department. You know, if you look at page 5 in the packet, it gives you sort of a pulled out view of where the electric department is and where this 11 acres is. You know, we talked about the fact that they are replacing the fencing, and, you know, possibly they could just merge over into that tree buffer and have a great area to be able to put their things in. And, you know, all of these items, just like Doug said, the property that's outside of town, you know, how do you want to conserve and bring everybody in together, less ability to move out and, you know, have to travel. They would have everything right there, their needs, and so would Doug. And then if you chose, you know, the fire department, all of it would be sort of a central location for them to be able to access and not have to be on the road so much. And you would be able to sell that property outside of town too.
Well, and I did just have one more comment to throw in the mix, is that, you know, there's a lot of things we could sit here and mull over and do, and future planning is absolutely important, but I don't want to future plan us out of a good opportunity. So I would like to, if we have it go to planning and zoning, you know, I mean, we really need to communicate with those folks. You know, I'm sorry that, you know, the municipality and our due diligence maybe takes longer than what they expect. But, you know, we would like, if it's not this project, we would like a future project for sure. Because I want us to be a council that we are doing good things, we are moving forward. I mean, it all needs to make sense, but we can't just not do anything.
And like I said, tomorrow we have a planning zoning meeting. It is going to be discussed. I can add this, you know, as part of the discussion, and possibly, you know, like I know that Jan or Angela Vanderpool and Kelly are on the line tonight. I will invite them to the meeting tomorrow so they can just maybe do citizen comments, and then we can definitely continue working with them as much as I can.
And then I know that there's a member of the public that let's give the public a second bite at the apple.
Carol Griswold.
Carol, you're on.
Hello.
Thank you, we can hear you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few comments based on this discussion. The Kenai Peninsula Parcel Viewer says the assessed land value is $1,553,000, just the land, not any structures. Utilities are not code and need to be completely redone. That was my understanding. So I'm not sure how much that would cost and who would pay for it. I would like to have P&Z provide a draft plan to accommodate all or most of the city's needs, and each department should present its needs in acreage to P&Z, as Doug just did briefly, so we know what they're needing. The city should not proceed with surveying or an appraisal until we decide if and when any of this land is for sale. Parks and Rec warehouse needs to be demolished and could be replaced somewhere else on city land. So that's a parcel, it's on its own parcel, it's not part of this 11.04 acres, but it does need to be demolished, and that would be a good piece to maybe free up if we could relocate them in a less desirable spot. If Wade has time to update the MLU plans, I'm really glad that that's on P&Z's radar. And I feel it's too short a time to add this discussion to P&Z's discussion for tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, does anyone else have their hand raised?
No, not at this time.
Madam Mayor, can I answer that for the citizen? It will just be a discussion. It will be a discussion to set a meeting. Like it won't, yeah, like this, like we did last week for this meeting. It will be that type of discussion. It won't be
To make decisions.
Yeah,
Sure.
there will be no decisions made tomorrow for this.
Thank you for clarifying, that's good. So, do you have enough to move forward? I'm gonna go back to the phones first, but I'll just make sure, are there any questions that you definitely need answered? Is that enough information, or, and I'll check with everyone again, but I wanna check in with the administration first.
I feel comfortable knowing that, you know, you want all the options, so we can, you know, I'll definitely, you know, talking to other departments, you know, this has not been something that just hasn't been done. You know, I've been doing it. You walk in my office, you'll see it on our board.
Yeah.
So we do have these general ideas of what would be needed for city use, and you know, we talked about it for years about, you know, how great the Public Works building property is. You know, so we can all work with planning and zoning on, you know, we'll focus on this area, but focusing on this area will also move us to options for other areas. So I will get moving on that, and I'll make sure that we have a mix of lease or sale, or lease of all. And I'll break it down into the, you know, the average approximate size that needs to be done on that
And
area.
all those things about locations like utilities, I know there's a lot of infrastructure in there that those guys got away with not moving out.
Yeah, we, last year we had R&M do a study. We had to, so we could, you know, just know sort of generally what we needed to do. So we have that available. We've already paid for that. We know what was supposed to be done was already approved, not to worry about it and just move forward. So we are stuck with that web of
Yeah.
infrastructure underneath there. Doug has a really good, you know, input when it comes to the water and sewer, and that's basically, you know, why we keep talking about this frontage road, so we can include, you know, that's where his lines go, but we know that there's a cobweb under there.
So I'll go back to Councilmember Cease. Did you have any final comments or questions?
No, and I'm glad planning and zoning is going to take over it, and I'm glad that Doug talked tonight about possibly using this property for what they need. And I also agree that the Parks and Rec building out there should be gone.
Okay, good notes for the order. Councilmember Casagrande, you mentioned some things that you want to make sure P&Z looked at. Did you have any further comments, or do you want to stress those again?
Yeah, if we could please have the R&M study emailed to all of us so that we can all take a look at that, that would be awesome. I'd like to see with 90 with 9,000 square foot lots in mind, what it would look like to subdivide the entire 11 acres plus what the warehouse is sitting on, with the overall plan of, you know, idea of what was thrown out about a buffer to be close to them. So we should, and then also having input from Parks, but maybe again from Doug, and any other city departments in the needs of possibly what they need, or will possibly need from that area. And I know we need to stay focused in this one chunk of land, but to me it seems like we can't really discuss what we're going to do with this land without thinking about what we're going to do with all the land between Fix and Blaine when we do move the city shop.
Yep.
So maybe making that a secondary or part of this whole discussion, because there's a lot of value sitting over there as well.
Okay, so kind of have that be a footnote or an asterisk, and I've seen some plans for that. And you were coming in and out, but I think we got the gist of it. But if there's any questions, we'll reach out to you.
And I'll send that study to Brenda
Thank you.
Okay,
tomorrow, so that it will be going out to you guys.
and Jackie just confirmed she'll get that R&M study to Brenda and get it out tomorrow. Vice Mayor,
Okay.
thank you, Councilmember Casagrande. Vice Mayor Buckland, did you have any comments or questions or input to round off?
No, I think it was interesting though hearing the 9,000 square feet lots. What I'm trying to look back. What was the size of the lots right now in the proposed sale or lease area, Jackie?
So, like auto commercial on this end of town where City Hall is a minimum of 6,000 square feet. But in auto commercial, if you look under development requirements, it specifically states, there's an asterisk next to it that says from, I believe it's from Port north, that you have a 9,000 square foot lots.
So, the piece that they carved out for Chugachmute at 3.31 acres would be 16 9,000 square foot lots.
Correct.
And then, the city piece with potentially Public Works is 2.82 acres. And then the acreage directly adjacent to Sea Lion, like with the buffer, is 12 9,000 square foot lots or 2.47 acres.
And then there's the other one.
And then there's the other piece on the corner of Sea Lion and the Seward Highway is 10 9,000 square foot lots, which is 2.12 acres. Is that part of the questioning?
Yeah, I was just I guess I can see it now more clearly, because then that big easement is where that proposed road is going to be, right? So that would take out in that area most of the easement and the yellow portion closest to the road.
Yeah, so after speaking with Doug and then seeing what Chugachmute had originally requested, you know, they wanted right on the highway, but that's undoable. I mean, that's not doable because we have water and sewer, correct, Doug? Right along that frontage road. So you would want to set back from the highway, plus, you know, the best opportunity would be to have a road there and not try to build over it.
Yeah,
You
keep those
wouldn't want to do
utilities
that.
in place.
Access-wise, you've got the main one access, which will be wide. If you look down at Aspen, how wide it is, it would be probably one lane going in, 2 lanes coming out. So it'd be a nice wide entrance in there, but then as they turn on the frontage road, they could have 2 or 3 entrances into that property to come in and out.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, the cars can zip out Sea Line. If they see buses, they're gonna come out this way, but it gives that extra way to get out of there.
And we even talked about, that's why the cul-de-sac is so large, that little round area. We made sure that it would be wide enough for even a larger truck, you know, delivery trucks, those kind of things. I wanted to make sure that we had not only an alleyway that was wide enough, but the frontage road they would be able to turn off on it. You know, everybody wants to talk about Diamond connecting to the highway, and I just want to put it out there that yes, at one point it did, and then you see a bike path right there, but talking with the DOT, in order to connect Diamond right to the highway, you would have to add a merge lane.
Yeah, because
So,
the way it comes.
yeah, because it comes in, so, you know, it's not that it's not doable, because they are redoing mile 0 to 99, right? But that needs to be addressed in the transportation plan that, you know, we've had, I think, 4 meetings on it. And it's just, it's an option, but it's something that, you know, we know that it would be an uphill battle to try to get them to give us a merge lane.
Councilmember Osenga?
Just a question, what's the DOT's right of way? How wide is it there? How far?
The
off
highway,
Yeah,
it's 100.
It's a railroad right-of-way with the DOT right-of-way inside of the
next to-
railroad
yeah.
right-of-way. So it's mostly a railroad
So,
right-of-way,
I mean,
but
on
I
this
believe
side
it's
of the road.
200 feet. Oh, to go that way?
yeah, to go that way.
If you're going that way, I think it goes in about 30 feet beyond the road edge, if I remember right.
It's only 30 feet?
Just that
Past
access,
the-
the rest is on the other side of
Past
the
the
highway.
asphalt.
It's a total of 200 feet, I
Right,
think, but
right,
a lot of
right,
it's
right.
part out into the railroad.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how far the right of way for the state is on this side,
Right.
is all.
I think, I want to say it's about 30 feet. There's a 30-foot utility easement right there along with it, I think beside it. So the 30-foot utility easement is outside of the state right of way, so if that comes in 30 feet, probably got about 60 feet of, but you can build the road over the top of the easement.
Okay.
That's not a problem. That, I mean, normally we have our water sewer in the roads. You see the manholes
Right, right.
and the vaults and that. So that isn't a problem to build across that. So we'd probably have a 30-foot buffer roughly,
Okay.
depending on, you know, once it's surveyed, we'd really know more where it's at. But just working with roads, just because we have a 60-foot right-of-way doesn't mean that road is in the middle. There's a lot of property owners that get an extra bonus yard because the road's out on the other side of the right-of-way a little bit. And it's just how things were built. It's still the right-of-way, but, you know, some people have a little more grass in the right-of-way than others. And I don't know if I'm out of turn to.
Go ahead.
Just comment on, as we are going through this and we're getting information from planning and zoning and trying to go through. I'm on my 5th year here. When I got here, the big push that I had was, hey, we're taking that plan, that 6th Avenue property, that needs to be in public to build houses, and we've been speaking it for 20 years, and that's gonna happen, you gotta do something with it. In the last 4.5 years, I've watched several other, whether it's departments or issues, all of a sudden in the last few years, it was like a complex. And it just seems to get so diluted with, okay, well, we need to do this department, we gotta figure out where everybody's at. Yes and no. I mean, we do have to figure out, to the answer Carol's part, yes, if she might not be able to see the map, but it shows clearly that Parks and Rec warehouse would be part of that, right where the Public Works area would be going. So that would be taken care of, but yes, we've got some administration that has some good spots for Parks and Rec, if it's just waiting for some other things to materialize to do them, so that, you know, there's a wait to wait. We're trying to do it, but to draw it in at least, to get it squared away, how these things would be, I think then opens up some other avenues for, whether it's other departments or other options to build on, build where, or whatever it might be. But it just got so diluted that all of a sudden nothing gets done again.
Right.
We're gonna sit
That's what I'm
and
afraid of, yeah.
try to figure out every department, which you all know how many needs there are, and you know, we gotta start picking them off somewhere. And putting one in somewhere doesn't mean it's, you know, as things develop, yeah, maybe that front gets sold. That was what's been discussed over the years here, was you know, we wanna put stuff on the back, but that front, we wanna put some commercial properties in and then possibly some residentials over on Sea Lion, and then maybe a couple commercials just behind them. So it was just kind of a, there's a plan, but nothing like drawn, and this is what we're doing. And it, like I said, it just gets convoluted if we try to appease every option there might be out there for different, whether it's different departments or different sales. I like the idea of them, we do have a viable project here that's there. How do we do it per code? How do we do it, was there others that would have liked to have bought it? How do we do that correctly? You know, and as long as we're doing it correctly, and if we can do those things in code, we're trying to work with a company here that's, they're ready to do it, and they're a great thing to have, city. And maybe it's some, well, maybe the other acreage just out there on Spurnard works. We're not getting, I don't believe they're taxed anyway, right? And if that works, so, you know, at least it's some options to get out there, but I just don't think we can appease every department or every need we have, I should say, before we can move on with anything. Because then we just don't do anything.
Yeah, thank you. So before I get to you, Councilmember Doss, Vice Mayor Buckalon, you know, our discussion kind of marched forward. Did you have any follow-up or final comments, sir?
No, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Councilmember Demas?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I think that you put it really well, and that's kind of what I was gathering through this meeting, is that I feel like it is easy to say, we need to have everyone's opinion, we need, you know, to put this out there and have this process, which we do have to do everything to code, and it should go through planning and zoning. But at the same time, I feel like we have a really good opportunity here. I would love to see the Public Works building get moved like yesterday, and I think this is what you guys have been talking about for quite a while, and it's important to find something that's complementary to that as well. Also, if we sell them the land, instead of looking at the opportunity of leasing it to someone, maybe we can relieve ourselves of some of the liability of all of the utility mess. And if the Public Works building is moved, we have over 2 acres where you're at of oceanfront land that could be R1 with how many houses if we do them at 100 by 30 lots? You know, which could solve a housing problem that we have for single family homes. So I just see kind of a good combination of everything right here, and would like to see it move forward and not lose an opportunity that we could have.
So it'd be UR, just not R1.
Oh, UR?
Property down on the beach.
What is that?
Urban
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And you know, in this resolution, previously, it talks about, you know, the sale of property, we could start a land bank and start working on some of those things. So if we sell this property, we would have a land bank to then put into whatever we need to do down there to start, you know, seed money for the Public Works move. So there's some of those things happening. Councilmember Osinga?
I do think it's a good idea to have it go to planning and zoning. I would like to just try to keep Chugach in the loop and see if we can't work with them on this, because I do have concerns about, I mean, it's always been a concern, the generators, it's always come up. I mean, if it's not good enough for a dog pound or a dog shelter, animal shelter, then I'm not sure how you're gonna try and fit something else in there. So I would just wanna work with them, and I think it's a great opportunity for a year-round thing to be in Seward that's not tourist related.
Maybe the next time they test those generators, those representatives would like to go stand up there.
So, I want to bring up, because we keep going back to the animal shelter, and I know it's not the discussion tonight, but the animal shelter area has been tested for decibels and everything. So it is a pliable area to build the animal shelter. That's why, you know, the way we've laid this out, you know, you have a buffer, and, you know, even when we walked properties, that buffer's always been, in my mind, you know, and perceived and given to anybody that has talked about it, you know.
Okay.
I even talked to Doug about the placement of his building that he's wanting, you know, how can we place it a little bit further away, give equipment as a buffer, give, sand shed as a buffer, those type of things that would, in the long run, buffer whatever's in the very front.
Great. And then Councilmember Nicola.
Well, I agree with everything that pretty much everyone else has said. I want to move on with this. I'm just hoping we're not going to be too slow to take advantage of the offer. I hope that they understand that we need to do a few other things before we say, hey, but having a clinic there, I was going to mention that I received some input from some public member, a couple of them that had heard this was going to be a hospital and they were concerned, and it's not a hospital.
Clinic.
It's a clinic, and so it would not be competing with our existing hospital. And I just wanted to say that, just in case those members are listening, that this is a clinic, this is not a hospital.
And they mentioned that in their letter, that
Right.
their
Right.
intention is to continue the work that they do already with our clinic and our hospital that we
Right.
have. And just to put it out there, I will tomorrow, follow up. I know they're listening. They know I keep in touch with them. We're back and forth. So I will call Jan and Kelly tomorrow and just give them a heads up. And like I said, possibly have them just be able to call and speak tomorrow during citizen comments to, answer any questions that the Planning and Zoning Commission may have. So that gives them the opportunity to do that, and then they will be online, hopefully, to help us decide a time that, we can get them incorporated, have a couple work sessions, maybe one, maybe two, and then be able to really move forward. I just want to go off of what Doug said. I've lived here for 15 years. 15 years we've been wanting to move the Public Works building. If any of you that have worked with me know, I am one that wants to start a project, end a project. I want to be able to say, in the next 5 years, we want this. And that's the whole goal of everybody that should be working for the city, right? And that volunteers to work for the city. We need to have that goal. We need to be able to say, yes, previous administration, previous council, they had an idea and a plan. Let's create the plan so we can move forward and say, okay, Doug, in the next 5 years, we're going to make sure that we have you relocated and these lots sold. And what do we have to do to get there? So,
I just have a couple comments because I did some research in the comprehensive plan, and then I know we're probably ready to get off. In our comprehensive plan, it does say explore the feasibility of providing veterans care locally, which they said in their letter, veterans care. It does say in our comprehensive plan, support efforts of village and regional Alaska Native corporations to expand business activities and services. So these are things that our community says they want to happen. Evaluate for disposal city-owned lands which have not or will not be dedicated to public purpose. So if we're not going to use this property, we have to look at disposal. So those are just a few things that I quickly found in the comp plan. So I think we're moving towards what the vision of our community is. So if there's nothing else, we will adjourn.